On September 19, 1969, by order of the Soviet state, every copy of a book called Thermodynamics was hunted down, pulled from every library and bookstore, and systematically destroyed by fire. Its author was not a dissident, not a mystic, but a decorated thermophysicist and doctor of science, Viktor Veynik. The crime his book committed was not political, it was metaphysical. Hidden within its equations was a complete model of the afterlife, a physics of the soul. Thousands of miles away, a man named Arthur Ford lay clinically dead, only to return with a stunningly detailed account of a realm with no time, no aging, where consciousness wore a new body made not of cells, but of pure awareness. A burned book of forbidden science. A first-hand report from beyond the veil. On their own, they are anomalies, but when viewed together, they become two halves of a single, explosive revelation. One that suggests the immortality of the soul is not an article of faith, but a law of physics. This isn't a story about what might happen when we die. This is an investigation into the evidence that suggests we have been given the wrong map of reality entirely. And the journey to correct it begins with the man who science itself tried to silence. To understand the weight of Viktor Veynik's discovery, one must first understand the mind of the man himself and the world that shaped him. Veynik was not a seeker of spiritual truths. He was a product of the Soviet system, a brilliant award-winning thermophysicist, a corresponding member of the Belarusian Academy of Sciences. His world was one of matter, mathematics, and brutal intellectual honesty. In the aggressively atheistic environment of the USSR, concepts like soul or creator were not just unscientific, they were intellectual poison. For years, Veynik was a staunch materialist. He openly mocked any attempt to connect the rigorous world of science with the nebulous realm of spirituality. He believed, as did the entire Soviet scientific establishment, that consciousness was an illusion, a ghost generated by the complex machinery of the brain. When the machine stopped, the ghost simply vanished. He was a man who trusted only what could be measured, calculated, and proven. His entire career was built on the unshakable laws of the physical world. He would have been the first to dismiss any account of an afterlife as fantasy or delusion, and that is precisely what makes him the most important witness. Because the evidence that would shatter his materialistic worldview didn't come from a sacred text or a mystical vision. It came from his own calculations. It emerged from the cold, hard data of his experiments in thermodynamics. Veynik didn't seek out the subtle worlds. He stumbled upon them mathematically and was forced to confront a reality his own science proved, but his philosophy could not explain. This internal conflict is the key. Veynik wasn't just a scientist, he was a master of a specific domain, the transfer of heat, energy, and entropy. He dealt with the fundamental laws that govern why things cool down, why engines work, and why the universe itself seems to move in one direction, towards decay. His mind was trained to see the universe as a grand cosmic clock winding down. For such a man, the idea of a consciousness that could exist outside of time, a system that didn't decay, was not just wrong. It was a violation of the most sacred laws he knew. It was like a mathematician discovering a number that was both positive and negative at the same time. It was an impossibility that his own research was forcing him to accept. His colleagues saw the world in terms of atoms, forces, and predictable reactions. Veynik, through his deep work in thermodynamics, began to see the ghost in the machine. He noticed anomalies in his experiments, tiny deviations from classical physics that pointed to another layer of reality operating by different rules. He was charting the flow of energy and time, and he found a shoreline. Beyond it, his equations showed, was an ocean his materialistic maps could not contain. This is why his testimony is so devastating to a purely materialistic view. It comes from the inside. It's a confession from the high priest of a materialist church who, in the process of studying the temple's architecture, found a hidden door that leads to another universe. He was a man prepared to follow the evidence wherever it led, even if it meant dismantling his own identity and risking the wrath of a state that had declared the spirit officially dead. Veynik's forbidden theory begins with a simple, yet world-altering premise. Our reality, the one we can see and touch, is only one level of a much larger, multi-layered universe. He called our world the chronometric world, governed by the familiar laws of space and time. But his calculations proved the existence of deeper, subtle worlds nested within our own. The pico world, the femto world, and beyond. The entities that exist on these levels are not bound by our linear progression of time. They can exist in the past, present, and future simultaneously. They are, in his words, smeared everywhere across our physical space. He proposed that consciousness itself is not a product of our brain. Instead, the brain acts as a receiver, a biological antenna for a signal that originates from these subtle realms. Our true self, our core awareness, is an object existing in this higher dimensional reality. He called the energy of this realm the chronal field, a substance that carries information and consciousness, independent of the physical body. This may sound like science fiction, until you place it next to the decades of rigorous clinical research conducted by men like Dr. Bruce Greyson. Greyson has documented thousands of cases of near-death experiences where patients with brains that are clinically dead or non-functional report seeing and hearing events with perfect accuracy. They describe conversations between doctors, identify surgical instruments, and witness events in other rooms, all later verified as true. Materialistic science has no explanation for this, but Veynik's theory offers a chillingly precise one. In these moments of clinical death, the brain antenna is switched off. The consciousness, the subtle body, is temporarily untethered and perceives reality directly through this chronal field. This is the exact phenomenon described by Arthur Ford. When he floated above his own dying body, he wasn't having a hallucination. He was experiencing the true nature of his awareness. What he called the beta body was the very same subtle world vehicle Veynik's mathematics had predicted, a body not made of aging cells, but of timeless consciousness, perfectly at home in a realm where past, present, and future converge. Veynik gave us the blueprint, Ford gave us the travelogue, and they were both unknowingly rediscovering a truth known for millennia. Ancient wisdom traditions have always spoken of this: the astral body, the subtle body, the chariot of the soul. They were all names for this immortal vehicle of our awareness. Imagine consciousness not as a candle flame, flickering into existence when the brain is lit and extinguished at death. Instead, imagine it as a deep-sea diver. For our entire lives, this diver is encased in a heavy, cumbersome atmospheric suit, the physical body. Through the suit's tiny porthole, our five senses, the diver perceives the ocean floor. The suit is heavy, it moves slowly, and it is subject to the immense pressure and the linear flow of the currents. This is our life in the chronometric world. The diver believes he is the suit, but at the moment of clinical death, something extraordinary happens. The connection to the suit is temporarily severed. For the first time, the diver slips out of the cumbersome armor and is free in the ocean itself. He is no longer looking through a tiny porthole. He can see in all directions at once. He is no longer bound by the slow, heavy movements of the suit. He can move effortlessly, instantly, with a single thought. This is what Veynik's chronal field describes. It is the water of the ocean. It connects everything, carries information instantly, and is the native environment of the diver. What Arthur Ford called his beta body is the true form of the diver, weightless and free. When he saw his own physical body on the hospital bed, it was like a diver looking back at his empty, discarded suit lying on the seabed. This is why Dr. Greyson's patients can hear the surgeon's conversation from the ceiling or see their family members in the waiting room. The diver, free from the suit, is no longer limited by the suit's sensory inputs. This framework doesn't just explain the evidence, it illuminates it. It reveals that NDEs are not a malfunction of a dying brain, but the first moments of the soul remembering its true nature as a being of the great ocean, not just a passenger inside a temporary machine. The Gnostics called this body the Soma Pneumaticon, the spiritual body. Vedanta calls it the Linga Sharira, the subtle body. The names change, but the description of the diver freed from the suit remains uncannily the same across cultures and ages. If what Viktor Veynik's physics and Arthur Ford's experience suggest is true, then the single most important fact of our existence is not what we have been told. We are not our bodies, we are not our brains, we are immortal consciousness having a temporary human experience. This isn't a comforting philosophical platitude, it is a fundamental shift in the operating system of reality. It changes everything we think we know about who we are, why we are here, and what we fear. The fear of death, the deep primal terror of annihilation, is built on a case of mistaken identity. We have spent our entire lives believing that we are the avatar, not the player. We fear the end of the game because we think we will vanish with it. But this evidence suggests we are the consciousness that animates the avatar. The game may end, the body may fall, but the player continues. This reframes our entire life. It suggests that this world is not a random collection of atoms, but a profound learning environment, a sort of cosmic simulator for the soul. The challenges, the losses, the joys, they are not random events. They are part of a curriculum. They are experiences our immortal self chose to have, for the purpose of growth and understanding. Suddenly, our purpose is no longer defined by what we can accumulate in the physical world, but by what we can develop in our consciousness. Qualities like compassion, unconditional love, and wisdom are not just nice ideas. They are the very skills we are here to master. They are the only things we take with us when we leave the simulation. If consciousness is primary, then our thoughts and intentions are not just fleeting brain signals. According to Veynik's physics, they are real forces. They create ripples in the chronal field. This means we are not passive observers of the universe. We are active participants in its creation, shaping our reality with the very quality of our awareness. This idea doesn't just remove the fear of death, it places an immense and beautiful responsibility on how we choose to live, right here, right now. Consider the nature of memory. In the materialist model, memories are stored like files in the fragile chemical hard drive of the brain. When the brain dies, the files are deleted forever. The love for your children, the wisdom gained from a lifetime of mistakes, the memory of a sunset that changed you, all of it is subject to complete and utter erasure. But in the model proposed by Veynik and experienced by Ford, this is a profound misunderstanding. Memory is not in the brain, it is accessed through the brain. Our true memory, the complete high-fidelity record of every moment, every thought, every feeling, is stored in the timeless, subtle body. Imagine the life review reported in countless NDEs, not as a film, but as an ocean where every drop of water is a moment lived, and you can dive into any one of them instantly, feeling the full emotional and moral weight of your actions from every perspective. This has staggering ethical implications. It suggests that there is no escape from ourselves. Every action, every word, every intention is permanently recorded in the fabric of our own consciousness. This isn't a threat of external judgment from a distant God. It is a built-in, immutable law of cosmic accountability. We are not judged by a higher power. We are judged by the unfiltered truth of who we have been, a truth we will have to experience directly. This transforms the ancient concept of karma from a mystical belief into a functional principle of spiritual physics. Veynik's theory even contained this, as he discovered his chronal fields could hold a positive or negative charge, directly influenced by human intention. The heaven and hell, described in ancient texts, may not be places we are sent to, but states of consciousness we create and carry within us moment by moment. The ultimate implication is that this life is the training ground, the workshop where we forge the quality of our own eternity. For all the revolutionary clarity their discoveries provided, both the scientist and the seer eventually arrived at the same boundary, a frontier where human language and intellect collapse. Viktor Veynik, the staunch materialist, followed his equations into the subtle worlds, laying out a new physics of the soul. He explained the mechanics of consciousness, the nature of its immortal vehicle, and the laws that govern it. But his own model led him to an unavoidable conclusion. The intricate, multi-layered system he had uncovered, with its inherent laws and purpose, could not be the product of random chance. He was a man who had set out to map the river, and in doing so found undeniable evidence of a source. Late in his life, in a stunning reversal, he admitted his theory was incomplete without a creator. The physicist had been led to the threshold of the divine, but his science could not take the final step. Arthur Ford, on the other hand, took that step directly. He traveled to the other side, experienced the timeless realm, and met the souls who reside there. He could describe the journey, the landscape, the feeling of unconditional love. But when he was asked to describe the ultimate nature of the reality he witnessed, to explain the organizing intelligence behind it all, his descriptions became metaphorical, poetic. He spoke of a great consciousness, or a source, but admitted that these were just pale labels for a reality so vast and complex that the human mind, even the soul, could only grasp a fraction of it. Both men, one approaching from the outside in with logic and equations, the other from the inside out with direct experience, hit the same wall. It is the point where knowledge ends and mystery begins. They could bring back a map of the afterlife, but they could not bring back a photograph of its architect. They confirmed that the ocean is real, that it is vast, and that it is governed by an incredible intelligence. But when asked to describe the nature of the water itself, the best they could offer was a reverent silence. They had been shown, but they could not fully speak it. This limit is not a failure of their intellect or their perception. It is a fundamental feature of reality itself. It's best understood through the allegory of the map and the territory. A map can be perfectly accurate. It can show you the shape of the continents, the location of cities, the path of rivers. Veynik's physics is a map of the territory of the soul's journey. Arthur Ford's testimony is a detailed travelogue from someone who has walked that territory. But no map, no matter how detailed, can ever capture the experience of the territory itself. You cannot feel the sun on your skin by looking at a picture of a beach. You cannot know the taste of salt by reading the chemical formula for sodium chloride. The ultimate reality, the source that both men pointed to, is not another object on the map. It is the paper the map is printed on. It is the very fabric of existence itself. Our consciousness, our subtle body, is a fractal of that fabric, a single wave attempting to comprehend the entire ocean. A wave can experience the nature of water. It can feel its wetness, its flow, its depth, but it cannot step outside of the ocean to draw a picture of it. This is why the great mystics and philosophers throughout history, when they reach this point, resort to paradox and negation. They say neti, neti in the Upanishads, not this, not that. They speak of a dazzling darkness or a silent thunder. They are not being poetic, they are being precise. They are describing the moment the mapmaker realizes he is part of the landscape he is trying to chart. Veynik could calculate the laws of the chronal field, but he couldn't explain the intelligence that wrote those laws. Ford could bask in the unconditional love of the source, but he couldn't put that love in a bottle and bring it back. The final mystery is not, what is the afterlife like? The final mystery is, what is the nature of the consciousness that is asking the question? And the answer, it seems, cannot be told. It can only be experienced. Given the weight of this evidence, the convergence of physics, clinical studies, and perennial wisdom, why is this not the headline of every newspaper? Why are these ideas still relegated to the fringe? The answer is simple. This knowledge does not just challenge a scientific theory, it threatens the foundation of an entire worldview. The Soviet state that burned Viktor Veynik's books did not do so because his science was flawed. They did so because his science was heretical. A materialistic worldview requires that consciousness is an accident, that life has no inherent meaning, and that the individual is ultimately powerless before the state and the finality of death. Veynik's physics was a direct assault on this control. It proved that consciousness was fundamental, that our existence had a purpose beyond the material, and that the individual soul was immortal. A population that understands this is not easily controlled. Burning his books was an act of ideological self-preservation. In the West, the resistance is less overt but just as powerful. It is the dogma of scientific materialism. For over a century, the dominant paradigm has insisted that the brain creates consciousness, period. It is an assumption, an article of faith, but it is defended with religious fervor. Any data that contradicts this, like Dr. Grayson's veridical NDE cases, is ignored, ridiculed, or explained away with simplistic and inadequate theories like lack of oxygen or a dying brain's last gasp. But these explanations fail to cover the facts. They cannot explain how a patient with no brain activity can accurately report a conversation happening down the hall. They cannot explain the consistent, cross-cultural similarities in the NDE reports. And they certainly cannot explain how a Soviet thermophysicist's equations predicted the very structure of these experiences decades before they were systematically studied. The resistance is not truly scientific, it is philosophical. To accept this evidence means to accept that we have been profoundly wrong about the nature of reality. It means that science must expand to include the study of consciousness as a fundamental force. It requires a humility that the current paradigm is not yet ready for. But the evidence does not go away simply because a paradigm refuses to look at it. It continues to build, one case, one study, one courageous testimony at a time, waiting for the moment the wall of dogma finally cracks. This resistance is also deeply personal. To truly entertain this evidence is to initiate a crisis in one's own identity. For many, a materialistic worldview, while seemingly bleak, offers a strange kind of comfort, the comfort of finality. If death is the end, then our mistakes are forgotten, our regrets are erased, and the cosmic slate is wiped clean. There is no ultimate accountability. The paradigm Veynik's and Ford's evidence presents is far more demanding. It suggests that our existence is one of infinite continuity and consequence. As we saw, it implies a universal law of cause and effect, where every thought and action is woven into the fabric of our eternal self. This is a far greater burden of responsibility than the idea that we are simply biological machines that run for a while and then switch off. It's easier, psychologically, to ridicule the evidence than to face its profound moral and ethical demands. Furthermore, our culture has built its temples on the foundation of materialism. Our economic systems are predicated on endless consumption to fill a spiritual void. Our medical systems treat the body as a machine to be fixed, often ignoring the consciousness within it. Our educational systems teach us what to think, but not how to be. To accept that consciousness is primary would cause a tectonic shift in every one of these institutions. It would re-enchant the universe, transforming it from a dead, random machine into a living, intelligent system in which we are co-creators. This is a terrifying prospect for any system built on the assumption that the universe is meaningless. The burning of Veynik's books, therefore, wasn't just about suppressing a scientific theory. It was an attempt to put out a fire that threatened to burn down the entire ideological prison. But a truth, once uncovered, cannot be undiscovered. It can only be ignored, and eventually the cost of ignoring it becomes greater than the cost of accepting it. We began this investigation with two seemingly disconnected points of light in the darkness: a book of physics burned by a totalitarian state, and a man's journey beyond the threshold of death. We followed these threads, and they have led us to a place of stunning convergence, a place where the mathematics of a Soviet thermophysicist align perfectly with the clinical data from modern NDE research, and where both are echoed in the timeless wisdom of spiritual traditions. We have seen how the subtle body, the chronal field, and the beta body are simply different languages describing the same immortal vehicle of consciousness. This knowledge is not a passive curiosity. Once you have seen the evidence, you cannot unsee it. It acts as a key, opening a door in the mind. The world may continue to operate on the old map, the one based on fear, finality, and materialism, but you now possess the beginnings of a new one, a map that points towards purpose, continuity, and the infinite potential of the human soul. The great exploration of outer space is awe-inspiring, but the truly great frontier lies within. If this investigation resonates with the questions you've been asking, subscribe to continue the great exploration. This concludes our inquiry for now, a synthesis of documented evidence and timeless philosophical questions, grounded in the sources that guide our journey. What truth did you recognize today?